On breaking news, we go live to Oslo, Norway, where a protest is set to take place today, December 9th, against the Nobel Prize Committee for their decision to give far-right representative of Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's see more.
In the Nobel Committee's chair speech of 2025, the laureates alleged efforts to bring together the oppositional forces against the government of Venezuela is counted as an activity to enhance the fraternity between nations. National political activity is instrumentalized or weaponized and becomes working for fraternity between nations. And a sign of the relevance of this year's selection for Champion for Peace, it does not get more absurd. The Norwegian Nobel Committee is not an autonomous entity, but answers, according to the Swedish law, as Thomas just said, to the Nobel Swedish Institute or Foundation, and consequently also to the Swedish Kammarkollegiet, who runs this. In 2012, the colleague in Sweden says that the Norwegian Nobel Committee is not an independent body, but is subject to Swedish foundational law and accountable to the Nobel Foundation in Stockholm. And later, in 2014, they said, the selection of Peace Prize laureates will have to be made in strict accordance with Alfred Nobel's will and in no way to be exempt from testator's instruction and limitations. That sounds like a very straightforward utterance, but it comes as an answer to a request from the Nobel family saying, can we please not have to relate to Nobel's will? Can we be free to continue having a very successful prize? And the foundation said, authorities in Sweden said, no way. Go back to Nobel, find out what he means, and stick to that. The Nobel Committee's chair for 25, in his announcement speech, underlined the eligibility of Machado. Let me just show you. I've tried to put together some, the three elements of let me just try to find this. If we say that Nobel's words are in three lines, let's say it's the first one. A champion for peace is a person who shall have done the most or the best work for fraternity between nations. The committee, in its evaluation or its description of Machado, says, Machado brings the Venezuelan opposition together. And what is the truth about this? Experts say she is a very dividing force inside Venezuela and represent no international effort for peace and friendship between nations, definitely. She supports the ongoing Israeli genocide in Gaza and Israel's occupation of the West Bank. Further from being a champion of peace, I think it's hard to position oneself. The second element in Nobel's will is the reduction and abolition of standing armies, the demilitarization. The committee says that Machado is resisting militarization. She's resisting militarization. What we have found out by looking into her merits is that she has repeatedly requested foreign powers to intervene militarily in Venezuela and supported US extrajudicial killings of alleged Venezuelan drug smugglers. The third element in Nobel's will, the formation and spreading of peace congresses. It's an old-fashioned word. It can today, of course, be understood as slightly wider. Peace congresses, venues where conflicting parts come together to discuss and solve in a non-violent way. The committee says about Machado, she has been steadfast in her support for peaceful transition to democracy. Her appeal to foreign, and if we go into her history, we rather find that her appeal to foreign powers to intervene in Venezuela for regime change is the opposite of formation and spreading of peace congresses. It's an appeal for foreign military interventions. Uniting international uniting internal political parties in opposition to the government is not something Alfred Nobel even considers. Even if she had been good in bringing together oppositional forces in Venezuela, it would have no relevance to the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee of 2025 has arrived at its sad choice of laureate due to a mix of misreading Nobel's texts and glamorizing and falsifying, rendering her life and merits. At best, this is a result of lack of proper research by the committee and its advisory team at the Norwegian Nobel Institute. A proper process of scrutiny by the main Nobel Committee in Sweden would most certainly have prevented this. So some of the blame should be put on Sweden as well. Operating with a diluted and all-embracing definition of peace may have been a success by some people's standards, but certainly not by Nobel's standard. The Norwegian Nobel Peace Prize scholars and expert, the lawyer Fredrik Heffemel, as we've seen, states that this consistent misuse of the entrusted funds over 100 years is no small scandal. It's a deliberate embezzlement. To clean up after decades of this malpractice by the Norwegian Nobel Committee is a question of sound jurisprudence. This is law. The Swedish foundational law cannot be victim to haphazard and random whims of one commission after the other and their pragmatic search for successes and being popular and finding popular candidates. The will of Alfred Nobel, the testator, must be the sole compass in the search for a champion of peace. It's high time that this principle be respected also by the Norwegian Nobel Committee. But sadly, there are no signs that efforts to correct this will come from Norway. The Nordic Peace Organization, laid down in arms, criticizes this no specific person or government, but we want to confront and change and long-time malpractice an ongoing breach against the will that belongs to all humanity. By instrumentalizing or weaponizing the Nobel Peace Prize for political aims, as has been done this time, and in particular this year, in their allocation, we witnessed not only a betrayal of Alfred Nobel, but of the world's peace movements, and eventually maybe even the world's entire moral architecture. Thank you. Can I have the seats filled up here by people for the next session? Mons. Has Dave come? Dave, come. There's a seat for you. Dave Watson comes from Bergen, which is a long, long travel.
Signal for him and all the trains were stopped.
Okay, Norwegian signal problems. Okay, so here we have a series of people, which I would call some of the best activists in Norwegian Peace Movement. And why not start with Dave, our Bergen representative. Dave has been in Venezuela, has been an election observer, and has been active in showing that the way elections are portrayed in Norwegian media is not precisely correct. Is that correct, Dave? Yeah.
Partly, yeah.
Floor is yours.
Partly, yeah. Let him go here. Tomorrow is a historic day. Here in Oslo, in front of the royal family, the Prime Minister and other members of the government, eminent parliamentarians, ambassadors, and other representatives of the elite, the very first Nobel Peace Prize ever to encourage a war will be awarded. This year's Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Maria Corina Machado, has called for military intervention in her own country, approved extrajudicial killings of civilians, and also wholeheartedly supported Israel's genocide in Gaza. She has also dedicated her entire political career to undemocratic and violent attempts at illegal regime change. The award of the Peace Prize is based on her long struggle for democracy. The duration of this long struggle has actually been incredibly short. I've been an electoral observer in Venezuela since 2006, and in all elections up until the presidential election last summer. She has called for boycott, instigated violent demonstrations, and lobbied to impose sanctions against opposition members who participated in democratic electoral processes. In Venezuela, it is impossible to talk about free and fair democratic elections. Not because of any undemocratic activities by the government, though they do sometimes occur, but due to the USA's ongoing regime change project. The order of magnitude of USA's intervention in Venezuela is no longer in question, but is purposely ignored and trivialized by the mainstream media. Ever since the inauguration of Hugo Chavez as the country's president in 1999, the mainstream media has promoted the narrative of an authoritarian, power-greedy and polarizing threat to the so-called liberal democracy, using both crass tabloid manipulations and pseudo-academic analysis based on the same false narrative. This accelerated in 2017 when Donald Trump began his maximum pressure project for regime change led by John Bolton and Elliot Abrams. Trump's targeted war on Venezuela's economy, along with threats of military intervention, took the country's economy to a new and destructive low point. The sanctions were some of the most severe we have ever seen in modern times. UN rapporteurs have called this a medieval siege in peacetime, which has caused millions to flee the country. Estimates of the impact of these sanctions point to an economic decline 3 times greater than that of the Great Depression of the 1930s. According to UN rapporteurs, the sanctions have caused over 40 deaths a year. This is a Gaza genocide every year for the 7 consecutive years that sanctions have been in place. If there is any doubt who the target of the sanctions are, we are Richard Nephew, a State Department advisor to both Presidents Obama and Biden, who stated that unilateral US economic restrictions are intentionally designed to exact suffering on the population of which they are imposed. In parallel with these sanctions, the US has supported several coup attempts, military interventions, and an assassination attempt on the president. In any other country had to go through what Venezuela has gone through for 3 consecutive decades, it would have imposed a continuous state of emergency and abolished democratic institutions. Nobel Committee member Kristen Clement must bear full responsibility for this scandalous award, an ideologically motivated gift package for her far-right Venezuelan friends. She is a close friend and collaborator with Thor Halvorsen Mendoza's Oslo Freedom Forum, a right-wing elite human rights forum that labels itself the Davos of human rights after the World Economic Forum. Mendoza runs the US-financed Human Rights Foundation and is a close relative of Leopoldo Lopez, who has been involved in several coup attempts and was the instigator, together with Maria Corina Machado, of the violent Guarimbas in 2014 and 2017. This in itself should make her ineligible to sit in a so prestigious committee. Together with the other committee members, she has contributed to bringing the Nobel Peace Prize into disrepute and reducing its credibility as a tool for world peace. In a curious television interview with Nobel Institute Secretary Christian Berg Harpviken on Sunday, he was asked if the extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean were not a cause for concern for the Nobel Committee's award to Maria Corina Machado. He answered that the committee could not be held responsible for events that occurred after the announcement of the Peace Prize. The announcement was made on the 10th of October. These attacks began on the 2nd of September. The Nobel Committee made their decision knowing full well that the award would function as a justification for illegal military intervention. This is a scandal of such enormous dimension that the entire Nobel Committee must resign, and, as Maura Herrera will argue later, the Swedish Foundation's office and the Nobel Foundation must remove Norway's right to award the world's most prestigious Peace Prize. Thank you.
So thank you, Dave. We are moving to Cuba, actually, the Cuba Association in Norway, on the whole, a long-time supporter of and worker in the region, not only in Cuba, but her foundation is well known in Norway. Anna.
Thank you. I think you have heard something of this before, but here we go. Norway was honored to administer the Nobel Peace Prize from the very beginning. The government quickly turned this into a foreign policy tool. We had been an independent nation for 1 year, and the committee consisted of leading politicians. When they chose to give the prize to the President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, in 1906. He was an up-and-coming Deputy Secretary of the Navy, who, in the name of freedom fighter, had led the U.S. occupation of Cuba in 1898. He was the man behind the blowing up of one of their own warships in the port of Havana, blaming Spain, and then declaring war on them. Ignoring the Cuban population, US and Spain signed so-called peace agreement on the country's future. The liberation ended with a change of masters. The US occupied Cuba until 1902. The Cuban Republic was proclaimed, but on the conditions, one of the conditions was a century-long agreement on a military base in the island's only deep-water port, Guantanamo. Another condition was that the US should continue to control the Cuban economy, the courts, government, and president. The US ambassador became the island's most powerful man. According to Fredrik Heffermel's book, The Other Side of the Medal, the Norwegian Foreign Minister Løvland stated that the young nation needed a friend, even though this friend was far away. In 1973, Henry Kissinger was the mastermind behind the coup and assassination of the democratically elected President Salvador Allende in Chile. Kissinger was, though, not the first top politicians from the United States to receive the Nobel Peace Prize after regime change. In 1978 and 1994, the prize went to 3 of the administrators of Israel's apartheid regime, Begin, Peres, and Rabin. The Nobel Peace Prize winner of the year, Maria Corina Machado, is a close friend of Netanyahu and the genocide of the Palestinian people. Jens Stoltenberg displayed his role models when he later assured President Donald Trump that it is good to have friends. The Nobel Peace Prize winner of the year is an open supporter of the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, in which the United States gave itself the exclusive right to exploit the national resources of Latin America. Since her participation in the coup against Hugo Chavez in 2002, Machado wants to hand over Venezuela's national oil reserves, the world's largest, to the US, and she supports the United States' 10-year of deadly economic sanctions against her own people. Sanctions that are indeed to hit the civilian, the sanctions that are intended to hit the civilian population in order to make them turn against their own government. Legally elected latest in 2024, an election recognized, mind you, by more than 1/3 of the countries of the United Nations. Today, the prize winner is advocating a bloodshed executed by the US war machine. The election of the traitor and warmonger Maria Corina Machado is a disgrace for Norway and has discredited Norwegian peace work for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne Hoel from the Cuba Association. We'll move to another peace active in Norway, Maria Leran. She'll present herself, and we shall, I hope I can get another picture up there. We have an organization now working together with Peace Movement in Norway to show the world that the Norwegian Peace Movement is united in their protests against this prize. Marielle.
Yes, my name is Maria Leran. I'm a leader of Peace and Justice Party in Norway, Fred og Rettferdighet. And we, together with Peace and Solidarity Movement, is arranging this demonstration tomorrow at the actual day of delivering out of this so-called Peace Prize. And we call it a war prize, a prize of regime change and not a prize of war. And many things have been said here, so I won't repeat all this long, because there's so many arguments why it should be there tomorrow. There's also a demonstration today at 5 o'clock, but this is the demonstration we are trying to mobilize for, because it's important that we don't see these fascists out in the streets tomorrow, because there are fascists coming from all over Europe now to support Machado. And we will be there, we will show resistance, we will show that there is Norwegians, and there's also people from other parts of Norway and Europe coming together with us, and we will show resistance against this, because it's a shame. It's a real shame that Norway is delivering out this prize. It's a gift to Trump. It's a gift to Netanyahu. So this is what we're doing. So you who are here and all the media that is here, I really hope that you we get this message out, so we can be a lot of people out on the streets tomorrow. So this is just an appeal. I won't hold these long speeches about, because all the others would do that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marielle. And the message is clear. There is a demonstration tomorrow. There has been a lot of other things, activities. Yesterday there were groups, and tonight there are groups outside, protesting outside the Nobel Institute, and they're marching over to the Mela House to talk more about it and have some cultural exchanges there. But tomorrow also there's a possibility to express your harm and your anger against this. So we'll move to another friend of Latin America. Mons Lee is an old-time worker. He's a doctor, medical doctor, who's been serving in many countries in Latin America. Mons, what is your message?
Thank you. Well, my name is Mons Lee, and I represent here the organization of and Antikrigsinitiativ, the initiative against war. I will not apologize for repeating some of the arguments that's already been made, because I think that they deserve being repeated. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded a person who for more than 2 decades has advocated the use of military force in order to overthrow Venezuela's legal government. She supports US naval warships gathered off the coast of Venezuela, including the world's largest aircraft carrier. These armed forces threaten to attack Venezuela now unless Maduro leaves the country. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has promised a reward of $50 million to those who can capture this legal head of state. Maria Corina Machado has declared, and I quote, "I am thankful to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who, as you know, has been the defender of liberty and democracy in America," unquote. The winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize supports the US bombing of 17 vessels off the coast of Venezuela, killing 66 people without any evidence as to their alleged part in illegal drug traffic. These actions have been condemned by the UN Commissioner of Human Rights as unlawful killing. What makes this US activity an atrocity is their determined second strike. That is, the return bombing of first strike survivors when they're clinging to the rafts. Norway is a seafaring nation. A fundamental principle for all those who live by the sea is always to rescue the shipwrecked, no matter be him friend or foe. The Norwegian Nobel Peace Prize Committee has honored a person who has declared full support to those military powers who not only refuse the shipwreck to be saved, but purposely return to kill them. She not only condones the US atrocities, but actively chairs them as legitimate activity necessary for her to gain power in Venezuela. In addition to Donald Trump, Machado cherishes close contact with other far right-wing leaders all the world over, including Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, and strongly supporting his genocide in Gaza. She claims that his fight is the same as hers in Venezuela. The Norwegian Peace Prize Committee has this year violated all intentions explicitly formulated by Nobel in his will, laying down arms, reducing military power, supporting peaceful relationship. This has been, by this committee, twisted, cherishing more war, more arms is the only way to peaceful existence. I can see no alternative to that this noble committee, elected by the Norwegian Parliament, must resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mons, for a clear message. It goes from this meeting to those who feel hit by it. We shall move to, I could say the Queen of Norwegian Peace Movement. I shouldn't say that, but she's a recurring figure, and she has written a book you can see standing there on her table about the peace culture. Ingvar Breines has been with the International Peace Bureau, IPB, and with UNESCO, working with women's issues. Thank you for coming. We ask you to say a few words about how to work for peace today.
Once upon a time, there was a little country convinced that having a good welfare system at home, showing solidarity with people and countries in need, and supporting and strengthening the multilateral system through the UN was the very best security measures that we could have. Once upon a time, even further back, there was a union between Sweden and Norway, and Alfred Nobel, the Swede, asked the little sister Norway, with an innocent Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Parliament, to take care of his new prize for peace, as inspired by Bertha von Suttner in her book, Lay Down Your Arms, where she so strongly encouraged an active disgust for war. Little did he know, little did we know, that this little country would be part of a huge ongoing militarization, stronger than we have ever seen before, a doubling of military expenses, a narrative in the official space, 24 hours, 7 days a week, where the warmongers are giving the space to express war strategies and war narratives. So for the peace movement today, it is not an obvious task, because the war movement is so much stronger. So I think we need to look for inspiration, and there is not much inspiration to see around us these days. We need to look for the older inspirations and the few new that we have. And we need to cherish our institutions and not criticize the UN, even though there are things to be criticized, but make sure that the same thing is not happening to the UN as happened to the League of Nations. The UN is the peace movement's strongest success. And even though we are struggling with the power of the big powers in the UN and their veto right, we have a system that serves us in our fight for peace through peaceful means. Not as we have echoed in Norway today by NATO, that weapons are the way to peace, and that peace needs to be built on strength, meaning military strength. So, having worked for many years both with the International Peace Bureau and with UNESCO, I would say that the initiative of UNESCO that became a UN initiative to build a culture of peace as opposed to the ongoing culture of war and violence is a program and a vision that is there, and it is just for us to use it and adapt it to the situations that we are facing today. And to me, the militarization that we see today is actually a strong masculinity and patriarchal movement that disregard any attempts of the feminist underlining that cooperation and a flat structure and no enemy images are the way that we need for the world, the planet, and humanity to survive. We need to get out of these military alliances and focus on the few countries that we still have that are neutral. And the UN headquarters should be moved to a neutral country. Could be Switzerland, could be Austria, could be Ireland, but we need to get out of the hands of the big powers. So I think when the militarization has gone so far today that it is even entering so strongly the Nobel Committee, we are at risk as humanity, because Nobel gave us a gift, and this gift we need to take care of, nurture. I'm not among those that think it should be sent abroad. I think we have to take responsibility and do it better. And we can if we decide with the UNESCO and the Culture of Peace motto that we need to build peace by peaceful means, and we need to work closely to learn to live peacefully together. I think I'll end there and say that this prize should be withdrawn. It hasn't been given yet. It shouldn't be given tomorrow. And obviously, for the sake of the Nobel Committee and for the sake of the Norwegian people, this prize should never be given, because it has been given before to dissidents in countries that the US does not like. But never before, as far as I can see, has it been given to a dissident that is asking for a war on her country, war on the natural resources, war on the people, and war of the country as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingeborg, for bringing us into a context and showing us this word, peace culture. You know, we have leaders of Norway today who says that weapons is the way to peace. Weapons is the way to peace. We have leaders who say that luckily now we see young people are willing to die for their countries. We have leaders of other parties saying that now we need to train our young people in schools with weapons. And we're not talking about right-wing rifle associations in the US, we're talking about Norway. We have one more speaker before we turn to our Venezuelan friends, and Ola Thunander is a professor, a prolific professor, now retired from PRIO, Peace Research Institute in Oslo. Ola has a record of, do you want to stand here, Ola? Yeah, okay. Ola has a record of being willing to criticize the US, you know. Criticizing the US has not been a part of Norwegian foreign policy for some years, and definitely not by the parliament, not by PRIO, not by the Peace Prize institutions. But Ola dares to speak out, and now you have your word. You're going to speak about this strange thing which they claim is important for Machado, namely that the way to peace is democracy. It sounds, it makes sense, doesn't it, Ola? Or maybe not?
So, no, I'm going to speak about democracy and peace, and start with the statement by the Nobel Committee, and stated that Maria Corina Machado is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela, and for the struggle to achieve a just, peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. At a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this common ground. Democracy is a precondition for lasting peace. This is the motivation of the Nobel Committee. It argues that Machado is working for democracy, and democracy is a precondition for peace. But the will of the testament of Alfred Nobel does not speak about democracy. The prize is not awarding a champion of democracy, but a champion of peace. Whether Machado is working for democracy or not should not be an issue for the Nobel Committee. But what kind of Democrat is Maria Corina Machado? She has collaborated with coup plotters in US and Latin America. She wrote to Benjamin Netanyahu a letter and asked him to support her regime change in Venezuela. Western media claimed that she had been winning the election 2024, but they relied on exit polls from the CIA-linked Edison research that always present biased results in favor of the US candidates, like in Georgia 2024. Machado claimed victory before the electronic votes were checked with the paper ballots. Norwegian election observer David Watson, who's sitting here close to me, wrote that the other opposition parties had approved the official results. And it was Machado's people that threw Molotov cocktails on the election eve in a try to provoke police brutality. Actually in line with CIA manuals. That is what you do. Machado's ally Donald Trump claimed election fraud in 2020. Machado claimed election fraud 4 years later, but neither of them were verified. The Nobel Committee, however, still awarded Machado, not Trump. Machado had supported State Secretary Marco Rubio's push for a military intervention. And last year, on 24th August, when Senator Marco Rubio, then Senator Marco Rubio nominated Maria Corina Machado for the Nobel Peace Prize, a prize that could justify a war against Venezuela. Machado's US campaign was never about democracy, at American Business Forum, she was selling out Venezuela to US companies. Venezuela's oil reserves are the largest in the world. After President Trump's coup attempts in 2019 and 2020, he said, we would have gotten all that oil. But whether Machado is working for democracy or not has nothing to do with the Nobel Peace Prize. In political science, there is a theory called democratic peace theory. It claims that democratic countries may start wars, but rarely against each other. European countries do no longer fight wars in Europe. But is it because of they are democratic, or is it because the EU economic integration, or because of European subordination under US hegemony? The democratic peace theory is very controversial, but to claim as a Nobel Committee that the democracy is a precondition for peace has no support at all. In Oslo, the democratic peace theory had strong advocates at the Peace Research Institute that I were for 30 years. The director of the Nobel Institute and secretary of committee was formerly director of the Peace Research Institute. But he did not focus on limitation of the theory. His frequent candidate for the Peace Prize was Professor Gene Sharp, the father of color revolution. He sought to install democracies, but nothing indicates that these new regimes were more peaceful, rather the opposite. Alfred Nobel stated that the champion of peace should be awarded the prize for doing most for fraternity between nations, reduction of standing armies, and the promotion of peace congresses. The Peace Prize 2025 is in all respect a violation of Alfred Nobel's will. Norwegian Nobel Committee would accordingly have to pay back the prize money to the Swedish Nobel Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have to ask the good speakers here to give floor for our next group. Thank you for your contribution. If you are new here, I'm Thomas Magnusson. I'm part of this Lay Down Your Arms organization, which is a small but very interesting organization. One month or maybe a little bit more ago, I got an email in Swedish from a person in Venezuela. Perfect Swedish, in fact. I read it, I found out that this man has really gone into the details of Alfred Nobel's testament, his will, and also about the writing from Fredrik Heffermehl and so on. This man is here now, Mr. Herrera here, and he will speak in Spanish, and it will be translated by, Raul. So take your place here, take your seats here. And we have, Raul, sit by the side. We have been working together now for a few days. We were in Stockholm, and now we are in Oslo. And in fact, why is they so late coming now? It's because there has been a threat to them, and we have been to the police and so on. That is why they came a little bit late. That's reality. Okay, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Bueno, primero que nada.
It's on.
Primero que nada, agradecerles a ustedes, al señor Thomas, al señor Jones, por esta invitación. segundo es agradecerle las palabras que estas personas han estado diciendo sobre la realidad venezolana. Y tercero, decirles que hoy vengo a
And
desmontar la
third, I
mentira
would like to tell you that
que
today
construyó
I meant to unmantle the lies of
la
exclusion
laureada del 2025.
of the 2025 Nobel Prize laureate.
Good morning. Yes, thank you so much. No problem. Yes, first of all, express his gratefulness for the invitation and organization of this press conference. Also happy for the words that have been spread here in this room for the professor and other members of the floor. Número 3 era María Corina.
El número 3 era sobre que vamos a desmontar la mentira del comité.
Yes, the main objective here is dismantle the versions of the Nobel given to a figure that is representing peace, which is far away of the reality.
El Comité Nobel asegura que la laureada del 2025 unificó la oposición venezolana y también asegura que lo hizo con el ánimo de una transición de la dictadura. Cuando tú hablas de paz y eres un campeón de la paz, no puedes de ninguna manera llamar a tu contrario dictador, narcotraficante o algo similar.
Something similar.
Pero lo primero que quiero decir
But
es
first
que
I want to say,
cualquiera de ustedes puede investigar.
any of you can investigate.
Atrévanse a investigar.
Try to
Hagan
investigate.
una pequeña investigación
Do a small
en
investigation in internet,
y pueden verificar que no existe
and you can verify
unificación de la oposición.
that do not
Es
exist any
imposible
verifying the
que exista.
opposition.
Nunca ha
It is
existido
possible.
y
It
nunca
has never
existirá
existed
mientras
or
que
will
la
exist.
señora Machado sea
In the meantime, María Machado is the elect leader of the opposition because the real oppositors are in the country fighting day after day to take this country forward from their own concepts, let's say, but respect the right state in Venezuela. That's the real oppositors in our country.
Okay, I was expressing that the Nobel Committee has expressed that the person awarded is having some merits. Let's call it merits. One of them, the myth of unification of opposition, when in the reality you all are invited to check on any research with any research media. In the reality, the opposition is a wide range of groups. All have to be respected with different views, different methods, different interests, and the transit to democracy, it's to be in the inside the the transit to democracy has to be in the frame. Thank you so much. Yeah, has to be inside the frame of law, constitution, the legality. The reference of our constitution is that Venezuelans participated in 1999 to approve the constitutional text. So the right to change things by force doesn't sound peaceful.
Yo voy a leer una, voy a hacer,
Okay.
voy a hacer que la IA lea.
Champion,
Sí.
the term.
Sí, algo que es importante,
Something that is important.
los verdaderos campeones de la paz, sabemos
The
exactamente
real champion for peace,
qué
we know
méritos debemos
exactly
tener.
what merit we should have.
Unión entre naciones,
Union between
reducción
nations
de las armas o los
to
ejércitos
reduce
y congresos de
armed
paz.
forces and armies and Congress of
El
peace.
laureado del 2025,
Is the winner
del
of
2026
2025,
y de cualquier
2026,
otra,
and
no cumple
any
esos
other
tres preceptos,
doesn't accomplish with these
no
precepts,
puede ni debe
he
ser
can or
considerado
could be considered,
siquiera,
even
según el testamento de Alfred Nobel.
according to the will of
As per
Alfred Nobel.
the last will of Alfred Nobel, let's emphasize the three requisites necessary to be champion of peace: the reduction of weapons or armies, the peace congresses, and the union of countries, unification of groups, countries, nations. Give it the name, whatever it is the name. The key is unification of can be contraries, but there has to be a common ground.
Okay, ahora yo voy a valerme de la tecnología para leer
I will make
algo
use of technology
que textualmente va a representar
to say
lo que
something
quiero decir.
in text that what I want
You
to
want
say.
to use this technology to give a message in Sweden.
No, en inglés.
In English, in English. Okay. Please proceed.
Conference, Oslo, December 9th, 2020. Official speech. Mauro Manuel Herrera, International Conference, Oslo, December 9th, 2025. One opening. The essence of Nobel and the myth of unity. True champions of peace do not need a gold medal to know who they are. They are recognized by something deeper and universal, the unalterable principles Alfred Nobel wrote into his will. Nobel was absolutely clear. He left no room for creative reinterpretations, no room for political campaigns, no room for private interests. He ordered that the prize be awarded to those who had worked most or best during the previous year in three precise fields. 1. The abolition of armies or weapons. This does not mean internal resistance, democratic struggle, or regime change. It means real disarmament between states, the reduction of armed forces, limiting military power, and rejecting war as a tool. 2. Fraternity between nations, not within a country, but between sovereign states. Domestic political conflict is not the same as international peace. Nobel spoke about preventing wars, not rewarding internal disputes. 3. International peace congresses, global diplomacy, multilateral dialogue, and institutions that prevent war. These three criteria cannot be reinterpreted, cannot be modernized, cannot be replaced with contemporary political narratives. There is no legal or moral way to convert them into domestic democracy, electoral pressure, political activism, or international marketing. The Nobel Peace Prize has no owners. The Nobel Peace Prize has a will. 2. The question the Swedish state must answer: can a supervisory authority in Sweden, legally obligated under Chapter 9 of the Swedish Foundations Act to carry out mandatory oversight, receive a formal complaint, fail to investigate it, close the case without it?
Es imposible. Nosotros formulamos una denuncia oficialmente en Suecia ante el condado de Estocolmo, Länsstyrelsen.
The Estocolmo County.
Y también estamos ya a nivel del tribunal.
And also we are at the level of the administrative trouble.
and the appealing, and we have
argued, all while we have argued, we haven't get any answer we need. And tomorrow, when the the Nobel Prize is delivered, the case is gonna be juridic, from administrative to juridic, because we are going to keep on with this case.
Mauro's been referring, he opened a case, formal case before the authority. The name is Lance Tierelsen. This is the administrative corp of Stockholm conduct. Lance Tierelsen is in charge of supervising one of the functions of Lance Tierelsen. This respectable institution is in charge of supervising foundations. Every foundation organization have a main purpose declared in the Act of Constitution, and that's what they do. They are the regulator representing the state, making sure each organization was created is in line with the purposes that specify the Creation Act. The case is being started being administrative and is being escalating to the level of judicial. We are not quite sure how long it will take. What we are sure is that we will go through all the process, and we have different strategies to board this case, and will take time, maybe 1 year, 2 years, but we are completely ready for that.
El día 25 recibimos un correo electrónico de Lance Tierelsen donde omite o donde dice que ellos no iniciaron el proceso de investigación y que no ha habido un proceso de
The investigation process, and that there haven't been any process, and that's an omission of something that there is a precedent from 2012 where it shows that there must be an investigation. In fact, the Nobel Committee tried to let it go and tried to make a move, and it was denied in 2014.
Definition in the legal terms of omission means that you, as the authority in Stockholm, are supposed to do everything in your hands to make possible supervision, investigation of any case presented by any citizen of the world, because Nobel Prize is a patrimony of all the humanity. That's the reason Mauro is coming from Latin America, because he feels that Nobel Prize is important for the existence of the humanity.
Dos cosas que quiero que queden en este mensaje. Uno, el Comité Nobel queda desmentido totalmente cuando dice que unificó la oposición venezolana.
When they say that they unify the Venezuelan opposition, no person in the planet can choose this.
Yeah, as I said before, Mauro is dismantling a big lie, because the foundation and yeah, organizers of Nobel are making believe the public that the
unificación de la oposición, eso no existe en
yeah,
Venezuela.
unification never existed. Also, talking about the permute means they are intending to change the rules, the main rules of the prize. It means changing the main rules of the last will. Everybody knows this is impossible and outrageous. No one can change your last will.
No hubo tal unificación de la oposición en Venezuela, eso no existe nunca. Y cualquiera lo puede investigar.
There was no such unification.
Yes. Everybody,
and everybody can show
please,
it.
Research. Opposition unification has never existed. It's natural. Humans are variable and with different interests. And that's what is happening there. The interests of different parties, groups, sometimes are the opposite. Some people want only violence, only extremism, only polarization. Extremism, only polarization. Other people prefer dialogue.
Y ya por último, hablarles de no existe ningún método.
And last to talk about there is not a scientific method that can show that María Corina Machado
there is no scientific
with a requisite for
way
being
she's
a Nobel
champion of peace. Thank you so much for your attention. The floor is open for any comment, question. Again, I'm so happy, Mauro is so happy to be here and have the opportunity to tell you face to face what is the situation in Venezuela and what is the situation with the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. We open up for questions, and I think I take the opportunity to start, if it's okay. Can you say something about the reaction shortly in Venezuela with the prize?
when this event happens.
Normalmente cuando ocurren
Normally
estos
when this
eventos
event happens,
que se pronuncia un laureado
where
de la
there
paz,
is a pronunciation
normalmente
of
ese
a
país
winner of the
acoge
peace,
y
this country celebrates it.
honestamente, no vi
Honestly,
nunca esa
I have
celebración,
never
pero
seen
fuera
that
algo muy
celebration
puntual entre ellos,
in
pero
Venezuela,
el país
something punctual among
estaba
them.
más
Our country
preparado
was
para celebrar
ready
que
to
no le entregaran el
celebrate,
premio
not
que se lo
to
entreguen.
giving the prize to her.
Some of you are understanding the message already. Yes, the reaction. Normally, we celebrate everything happening, the football, even if it's another country, we're celebrating. This is our nature of celebration. Always in peace, celebrating for peace. But in this case, people were doing their normal activities of every day, celebrating other things. Jose Gregorio Hernandez is a saint. Yeah, they were celebrating this saint, Jose Gregorio Hernandez.
Algo muy importante,
Something
¿no?
very important.
Imagínense ustedes
Imagine
que lo que ocurre en mi país ahora
what
mismo
is
es
happening in my
se
country
supone
right now. It
que
is
cuando ella tome
that
el
it
premio
is
de la
supposed
paz,
that when she
ahora sí
received
van a
the
invadir
Nobel
nuestro
Prize,
país
they are
desde
going
Estados
to
Unidos.
invade our
Imagínense
country
ustedes
from
un
USA.
premio de la paz
Imagine you
para invadir un
a
país,
Nobel Prize
para
to
darle,
invade
como
the
dice el
country,
mismo comité
to
Nobel,
say
porque
the
eso no lo
same
digo
Nobel
yo,
Committee.
le
It's
están
not
dando
me
un
myself.
salvoconducto
They are giving
para
her just a
convertir,
positive way to
para asesinar niños,
to
mujeres,
kill
hombres con sus invasores
kids,
dentro de mi país.
women, men in my country.
It seems nowadays Nobel Prize means it's like a license, a permit, an authorization for using violence, for bringing armies from the United States to control your country.
Ya, solamente les voy a decir,
And I want to tell you this.
nunca antes se había visto
Never
en el
before
Caribe
we have seen in the
una flota
Caribbean
americana
an,
apuntando cañones hacia Venezuela.
a United States fleet aiming at Venezuela, and this is not reduction of weapons. The winner of 2025 is the contrary, or the contrary to the Nobel, to the perception of the Nobel Prizes.
The laureate, Maria Corina Machado, is the antithesis of Nobel standards. Never before, never in our lives, we have the opportunity to see the U.S. Army all around the Caribbean, affecting many countries of the Caribbean, Latin America, you can count Mexico, Aruba, Curacao, Trinidad, Tobago, and 7 other islands affected these activities of maritime fishing.
Quiero comentarles que
I
yo
want to comment
estoy siendo
that
amenazado
I am being threatened
porque entiendo que estamos hablando
because
con poderes mucho
that we are speaking with
a poderes simplemente. Nadie
with
está por
some
encima de Dios.
powers. Nobody is over God.
Tuve que ir a la policía
I
en
had,
este
I had
momento
to
a
go
hacer
to the
una
police
denuncia porque
to
estoy
denounce
recibiendo amenazas de
because
muerte.
I am
De
receiving
hecho,
just
me
death
grupos que
threats
están ya
from
aquí,
groups that are
que nos
in
están
here
buscando
that
a
are
nosotros,
looking
a
for
nuestros
us
compañeros,
and our comrades.
para grupos que tienen que ver con
Group
María
that
Corina
have to
Machado,
do with
para
Maria Corina
atacarnos a
Machado to
nosotros,
attack
y nos
us,
prometieron que nos
and they
iban a
promise
blindar
us
en
that
la
we are going
primera
to
plaza
hang
que
us in the
consiguieron.
first square that they had.
Entonces, ¿cómo puede ser que un
Then
premio de
how
la
is it
paz
possible that a Nobel Prize,
lo que provoque en,
what
en
is
los seguidores
provoking
de
in their
estas
followers,
personas es todo lo contrario?
is all the
No hay
contrary?
fraternidad,
There
no
is no
hay amor,
fraternity,
no hay
there
nada,
is
no
no
existe
love,
nada de eso.
there is nothing about that.
Yes, Maduro is expressing that he's been receiving threats. Radical groups wanted him to stay in his house, not traveling to Sweden and Norway to tell the truth, to tell our truth of our country and defend our country. Radical groups mentioned on digital posts that if we arrive here, they will hunt us. They will hang us in the square. In which year are these people living?
Yo estoy aquí
I am here
para honrar la memoria
to honor
del señor Frederick
memory of
y para
Frederick
continuar
and
junto a Thomas
to keep on
y a,
with Thomas
y a Jones
and John's,
ese legado hermoso
the
que nos
that
dejó
beautiful legacy that was led
Alfred Nobel.
by Alfred Nobel. That's why I am here. I am not here to confront anyone, nothing else. I am here just with the truth and representing a country, representing thousands of people that do not agree with this aberration.
Yes, Mauro is here to honor the memory of great people as Frederick, the leader of the foundation of the Lay Your Arms Down. We have so much respect for the memory of Frederick, and also to make honor to the intentions of Alfred Nobel. That's what we want to rescue. The patrimony for the humanity that represents Alfred Nobel's name. And Mauro, he is the voice of many people who today doesn't have access to media, to corporate media.
El año que viene aspiro debutar como
To
científico
debut
privado
as a private
en mi
scientist
país
in my
para
country,
impulsar un método
to boost
de
a method,
investigación
an
en el área de
investigation method
transformación de
in the
materias primas.
transformation area of
Y
raw
no lo vamos a
material,
lograr
and we are not
mientras
going to
existan
get it.
estas personas
But in the
presionando.
meantime, this person exists. This person that also, what the only thing I have brought is disgrace to our country. That is the real goal of this terrorist faction from the far right wing, Venezuela far right wing.
Mauro have plans for the future. One of them is becoming a scientific project developer in order to increase production of our country industry. Is related to raw materials and new materials and new technologies for the humanity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next
I
question.
didn't see many hands up, so I think that we can round up now. And of course, you're here. You're allowed to speak to them. We can mingle a while, and I think that is about the end of this. John?
Yeah, we've come to the close of 10 very intensive days. It's just 10 days since Mauro called us in Norway, and we started talking, and he said, I can come to Norway tomorrow. This is a businessman. He's active. He does what he wants to do and needs to do. Precisely 2 years ago, almost to the day, Fredrik Heffermehl launched this book. He was very ill when he did it, and he said to me, you have to launch the book, even if I'm dead, you have, on the day of my funeral, you have to launch this book on the 11th of the 11th, which is a particular peace day. And Fredrik would have been so happy, not only to see that this book was received by the Norwegian Høyesterett saying that this is a PhD-worthy piece of research, but also from Desayas, and from now a delegation coming from Venezuela, he would have been very, very happy. So thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the initiative of supporting this whole process of putting the Nobel Peace Prize on a right track to Nobel's will. Thank you. And thank you all for coming. If you've been to press conferences, sometimes there are only one or two people, and we have a lot of press people coming, and we have all of you. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, we were live in Norway. We were seeing the peace movement rejecting the Nobel Peace Committee a decision to grant the Peace Prize of 2025 to Maria Corina Machado, the far-right opposition in Venezuela, which this decision has been highly rejected due to Machado's actions in Venezuela and her call for invasion and attacks and to bring bloodshed to the nation, to bring about a regime change, a decision that goes completely, her actions, her way of acting goes completely against, as was being denounced by the authorities that were present at that press conference in Norway, that go completely against the ideals and the principles of Alfred Nobel when he established the foundation to grant the Peace Prize to the people that for the past year would work tirelessly to lead to armed disarmament, to coexistence, to peaceful coexistence between the nations. And as we have seen, the track record of Maria Corina Machado goes completely against this, as from her own mouth have come calls for invasion, have come calls for unrest, have been calls for violence in Venezuela to bring about a regime change and commit their actions and assault the political power of Venezuela, since, as has been denounced by the Venezuelan authorities, they don't have the vote of the people, and therefore, since they don't have the vote of the people, they go to the recourse of violence to achieve their objective. A decision has been rejected, as we were saying. They were working for the past 10 days, and they're going to continue working on this subject. There are plans for later in the day in Norway. There are going to be protests on the streets of Norway to reject the decision of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee to grant this the 2025 Peace Prize to María Corina Machado. And in this context, the network of intellectuals and artists in defense of humanity signed as well a letter to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee denouncing its choice of María Corina Machado to receive the award this year prior to the presentation of the medals on December 10th, which is tomorrow, Wednesday. The statement reads, the United States government has made public its intention to overthrow the legitimate government of Venezuela with the aim of taking over the world's largest oil reserves. They also stated, in the midst of this clear violation of the Charter of the United Nations and international law, we are faced with the unpleasant news that your committee has decided to award this year's prize to the main promoter of war, the invasion of our own country, and the destabilization of Venezuela and the entire region, María Corina Machado. The organization continued, we lovers of peace reject wars and will continue to fight for genuine and true peace, which can only be understood as a right of peoples, indivisible from their self-determination and defense of their sovereignty. They conclude the statement, after the grotesque ceremony you will hold on December 10th, you will no longer have any moral authority to speak of peace or justice, words that you manipulate at will to satisfy the geopolitical ambitions of the United States. These wars are the exclusive heritage of peoples fighting for their sovereignty. Well, that's the statement, as we were saying, that intellectual network sent to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. We also referring, as we were recalling, there's going to be large protests later in the afternoon in Norway. We're going to have more information on that in upcoming news brief, and stay tuned. We'll have all follow up everything that is surrounding the context of the Nobel Peace Committee's decision to grant the 2025 Peace Prize to María Corina Machado after her track record only reads blood. Stay tuned with teleSUR English.